Hello, friends by choice.
You are listening to the first official episode of the Sisters by Chance podcast.
We are so excited. Thank you so much for joining us in our debut episode. My name is Addi Danielle, and I am here with my sister and co-host,
Camryn Clifford.
We are two sisters who decided to start a podcast to spread our message of love, growth, healing, and wellness. You may be wondering, why us? Why tune into the Sisters by Chance podcast? What do we have to offer?
I think being 21 and 20, almost 20, we have been through quite a bit for people our ages. Me personally, I got pregnant when I was 16 years old, had my daughter Colette, and started a YouTube channel just out of pure boredom. And it turned into this thing where I post videos and I have this community of amazing people that support me, and they've watched my first pregnancy, my second pregnancy, my marriage, and then they were an amazing support system to me when I went through a tragedy this summer. My husband passed away, and I just realized during that time how surrounded by love I am, by my family and by my family. And now I live with my sister, Addi, and her boyfriend, and we're two sisters raising sisters in this household together. She is their nanny, and we've just always been the best of friends.
It's been a while since we lived together. Back in Hawaii and Texas, we shared a room our whole childhood, so we've always been super close, and it's been amazing to come back together. It's almost been full circle. Even though the events that brought us back together were obviously very tragic and hard to deal with, it has definitely created this space of just leaning on each other and allowing us to really pour into the kids and really have a girl power household where we're raising these young women, and we are trying our best to have them be as open-minded and kind-hearted as possible. And now we have the opportunity to start this podcast and spread that message to people all over the world.
Yeah.
I have definitely been through my own struggles of mental health and hardships and hard times, but I think it has really allowed me to help other people who are currently going through that and allow them to feel like they're not alone and shed some light on topics that are important to me and offer some advice.
In today's episode, we're going to be discussing this last year that we all just made it through, 2020, how it has affected us, and the lessons we learned.
We will also be talking about our goals and dreams for 2021 and some tips and strategies on how to put those into practice.
Before that, though, we're going to go into the quote of the day. What's the quote of the day, Addi?
The quote of the day is by Marianne Williamson, and she says, "Personal transformation can and does have global effects. As we go, so goes the world, for the world is us. The revolution that will save the world is ultimately a personal one." And that is a super deep quote. When I read that, I was a little bit mind blown.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that quote? What do you take from that?
I take that, we're in charge of ourselves, and that's really as much we have control of, but when you're bettering yourself, you are making the world a better place, not just by changing your one individual mindset, but you're not only changing yours, you're spreading your mindset onto others. Even if you realize it or not, people are inspired by that and see you, whether it's people in your lives or if you have a platform to share that. But either way, no matter how insignificant you think your own personal change is, it does have an effect on those around you, and those effects have an effect on the people around them, and it's just this wildfire that spreads of just this positive mindset and change.
Yeah, and I've always been the type of person where my career goal and my life purpose to me is to make the world a better place and to spread love and kindness. And it's been really amazing for me to realize that that starts within me, and I can change the world by doing my one individual part. So you can too.
And especially if we're all taking that and putting that into practice and really just trying to make the world a better place to live in for all of us, because we're all here. We all live here. We don't live on Mars. This is our world. And if one by one we each kind of
Make little changes.
Make little changes here and there just to make this place better, it does have an effect. This year has been a doozy. It's been hard on all of us, whether or not that's because of the pandemic. I think starting the year off with that has caused kind of this ripple effect of just bad things happening, at least in my life, and a lot of people near me have shared the same experience, where it started with COVID and then some personal things happened, and this year all around, I feel like we've all just really been struggling. It's been a hard year.
Yeah. And I feel like that almost brings us together, because where there is so much separation in the world these days, and opposing opinions and, fighting and all these things, the pandemic itself has really brought us in unity of we have all survived this. Even it's not just the United States, it's all over the world. We all have collectively gone through this tragedy and this hardship and survived it. I mean, obviously we're still going through it, but it's something I think we've all come together and really shown each other some grace and shown each other some empathy, because this is something no one is free from. We are all experiencing this, and that kind of has brought us together as people. So what are some things that you learned in 2020?
Well, obviously, losing my husband this year, it really just taught me how fragile life is.
Yeah.
And I have definitely gained a deeper appreciation just for life itself and the little things. And you just never know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. Like, at the end of the day, life is just so fragile. Not a single day is promised. And do with that information what you will. You can kind of think of it as this impending doom.
Yeah.
Or you can live every day to the absolute fullest and just try your best to make that day count.
And I think it's important too, with that sentiment, to also really appreciate people and show them you appreciate them while they're standing in front of you. Even if you're upset with somebody, the last thing you say to them before you part with them, you want it to be a positive thing, even if you are upset, because you never know. And people deserve to know how much you appreciate and love them, regardless of the circumstance of the moment.
Yes. What about you, Ad? What lesson have you learned this year?
One thing that I've learned in 2020 is that you never know what's around the corner. I know all of us on January 1st had all these goals and plans. Maybe it was travel plans, maybe you had a wedding. And no matter how much you plan and how well you plan for the future, you never know what's waiting for you around the corner. There are so many things out of our control, and where it is good to have plans and goals, it's also important to be flexible and realize that things happen and they will change your plans always, inevitably. And you just have to roll with the punches and adjust your plans and goals to what is waiting around the corner. That's something that I really learned in 2020, is to kind of live in the now and not really put too much focus on future while still having goals. It's a balance.
Yes.
What else have you learned?
Kind of tying back into just learning how fragile life is and appreciating it more, I've also just kind of found this love for life, and I've really learned that the meaning of all of this, everything around us, it all just kind of ties back to love and people and our relationships with one another. And that doesn't just mean romantic love, I feel like everyone just kind of holds this word to that standard where it's like love, romance, when really, like, I love my sister to death. I love my kids to death. And those relationships are just as valid. And you don't need a romantic partner to feel sense
unconditional
of
love.
And if anything, family and friendship relationships sometimes can be more unconditional than a romantic relationship, because, with a romantic relationship, it's very back and forth, and there's kind of
give and take.
Yes.
And it's an expectation, and you're fulfilled and validated through that love.
But, the way I love my daughters, they can do absolutely anything, and I don't hold them to any standard of, oh, they're going to lose my love if they do that. Because there's nothing they could do to lose my love. love just really makes the world go round, and also just kind of finding my self-love this year as well.
And yeah, and love for strangers even, like love for everybody that you see and just spreading the love everywhere you go. And everyone needs it. Everyone is looking for it, and we need it now more than ever. So I think that's really important.
Yep.
Another thing I learned in 2020 is how to be comfortable in my own loneliness. I spent the very beginning of quarantine completely physically alone. I wasn't living with anybody, and I obviously was out of work. The only human connection I got is when I went to the grocery store, and, people were not being very talkative back then. They were kind of like, stay away from me. Everyone's in their bubble. People were wearing.
Yeah, at the time, there's people in hazmat suits. It was a lot.
I don't know if y'all remember those like crazy like Facebook memes of all the different like protection.
Masks. Yeah,
those were really funny. But yeah, so I was really, really alone for a long time during the very beginning of all of this, and I learned how to just enjoy being alone, and that's not something that I'd ever been used to. I was a very codependent person, so learning how to not only cope with loneliness, but to begin to enjoy it and use that time to better myself and fall in love with myself, I think that was probably one of the biggest things that I took away from 2020.
Another lesson I learned this year is one that I actually had to relearn. And that is that authenticity is key.
Very crucial.
Thinking back to my 8th grade year, in the middle of the year, I ended up switching schools to a different middle school. So I was going into this new school with the mindset of, I'm not going to high school with any of these people. I'm in a different district. I'm not going to really see much of these people again. So I'm going to go into this school and just be me. The most me I can be. I'm not going to care what other people think. I'm going to dress how I want. It doesn't matter. This is my time to kind of figure out who I am before I enter high school, where I'm going to be with these people for the next 4 years. And that time was one of the best times in my life. I was just me, and I had a great time. I was enjoying myself, and whether or not people thought I was the biggest weirdo ever, which they did, they definitely did, I was happy, and I was having a great time. And with starting YouTube and having kids and becoming a mom and just all of that social pressure, I feel like I kind of lost that authentic self.
And it's really easy too when you have that many people looking at you, criticizing your every move.
So I think that's the biggest lesson I learned this year, is just being authentic is the best way to be. That is truly how to find happiness, in my opinion, is just being authentic to yourself and your morals and your values, and figuring out what that is and applying that and not straying from that.
Period.
So yeah, it's been a big year for me. I've learned a lot.
The last lesson that I learned in 2020 is that self-care is a priority and not a privilege. And that is something I think most people learned when you're like forced to sit there with yourself and you don't have work and you're sitting at home. Self-care is the most important thing. That needs to be your number one priority over your boyfriend, over your family, over your friends. You are, at the end of the day, are the most consistent person in your life. So you need to prioritize yourself and take care of yourself. And I don't mean taking bubble baths and doing face masks, where that is obviously good. Those are physical self-care, but I'm talking about being gracious with yourself, not being hard on yourself, doing anxiety practices, breathing practices, doing healthy habits, just really taking care of your mind and soul. That is one of the most important things, and it is something that you deserve, and it's not something you need to earn.
And if you aren't doing that for yourself, if you're not fulfilling yourself and filling your cup and just clearing your head like that every now and then, you can't pour into those relationships that do mean so much to you. And so that's not to invalidate those relationships and say that you're more important. It's not selfish. And I feel like people kind of take self-care.
Self-care is not selfish.
Exactly. It's, you need to be able to do that for yourself so you can love on the people you should properly.
If you're empty, then you have nothing to offer anyone. And so you need to fill yourself up so you can fill up others around you. So Cam, what is your biggest takeaway from 2020?
My biggest takeaway is to just not dwell on the past. It's been a really hard year, and I could spend this whole next year, I could spend all of 2021 thinking about the way 2020 played out, all the things that happened, all the bad things, and I could sit there and dwell on that. Or I can wake up and say, it is a new day, and I'm going to make this day my B, and I'm going to go out there and do what I want to do what I think is going to do to make me the happiest and the most fulfilled. And you can't do that when you're thinking about all the things that led you to getting to wherever you are.
Yeah.
You need to appreciate those things and be mindful of that and reflect when it's necessary and really keep in mind where you came from. But also, you can't live there. You can't live in that space. You need to move on, and just dwelling on the past is not productive or good for you.
I would say my biggest takeaway is to just control what you can control, because at the end of the day, that is all you have. So if you can control your mindset, control the way you treat others, control the way you look at the world, then you have the ability to create your reality. If you spend all your time focusing on outwardly things that you can't control, like the way that other people treat you, the way that you're perceived by others, you're just spending time in anxiety, and instead you need to be focusing on, okay, what can I do to change the situation? And that's all you can do. And I think that is really important for us to go moving forward, to just control ourselves and let outside things control themselves.
There's no doubt that this crazy year has shaped us into completely new people heading into this new year. And like I said, it's important to think about the past and where you came from and how you got here. And I think those lessons that we learned definitely need to be carried on into this next year, 2021.
Yes, 2021. What? That just sounds weird to me.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's a mouthful. I like 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, 2020 was the worst, but it was easy to say. It was easier to say for sure.
Exactly. But we are going to be talking about our hopes and dreams for 2021. So Cam, what are some of your hopes and dreams for 2021?
I'm just keeping it really simple this year. I mean, obviously last year was a lot, and I just kind of need some time to recuperate and really just focus on healing from everything that happened.
We all do.
And I feel like it's easy for a lot of people to just be like, oh yeah, like I'm just healing. Like that's just what's happening right now. That's not really like how it works. Like I know that time does heal, but time doesn't heal everything. You have to do some of the work, you know? So while that is just kind of like small and minute, it's a lot of work. A lot goes into healing from what I've been through. And, you know, it's going to therapy appointments when I don't feel like going. And it's taking time out of my day. Do I want to spend an hour on TikTok, or do I want to meditate and take this time that I have to do that? Just time management. It goes into the little details about what goes into that, but overall that's kind of my main theme for this year, is just to really heal and put in that work to be a different person by the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm really proud of you for, because it is so hard, and I've done a lot of work in healing from my past experiences, and I know that it's like so much harder than it sounds, because a lot of people, when they think of healing, they just think, okay, time will pass and I will heal. And then 2 years later, they're still as hurt as they were about the situation, or 15 years later. You have to really do some hard work, some hard digging deep down within yourself of things that are super painful that our mind naturally tells us to suppress. So I'm really proud of you for that.
Thanks.
One of my goals for 2021 is to grow on all of my platforms and put out content that is very inspiring and comforting for others. So I want to really focus on putting out content and work that I think are going to positively impact people and also comfort people in knowing that they're not alone in their struggles. So that's really important for me this year. I just want to focus on putting out stuff that matters. What's another one of your goals?
Like I said earlier, something I learned is just how important those relationships in my life are. So to really pour into those and make an effort to be a better friend, be a better sister, be a better mom, be a better daughter. In doing that, though, sometimes you need to reevaluate the relationships in your life. And I hate to say it, but to just start off the year cutting out some people, some toxic people who are bringing you down and who aren't truly there to watch you flourish. And then to also try my best to find some new friendships and be more outgoing and put myself out there. I feel like I kind of fall into this hole sometimes of just being like, I'm sad, I have no friends. It's like, go make friends, go out into the world. That's something that Trent has taught me a lot since hanging around him. We both have quite a bit of social anxiety. So to hear it from him versus Addi, like it's so easy for Addi to go out and make a friend. Like, of course, she's giving me this advice. But to hear it from Trent to be like, yeah, just talk to someone at the grocery store. Talk to the person bagging your groceries, you know. Even if they don't become your new best friend, it's not a waste of time. You know, you might brighten up their day, and it's good practice.
Yeah, it really helps you to be more comfortable around strangers, and eventually, you know, maybe, yeah, like she said, they may not be your new best friend, but when that person does come along, you're going to be more open to them than you would have been if you're not taking the time to practice those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Believe it or not, I'm a really shy person. So yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest goals this year is to just be less shy, put myself out there more, and just really focus on my relationships with my friends and family.
That is a really good goal to have. Another one of my goals is to prioritize healthy habits, because I know in my head, I know the things I need to do to have a healthy mindset.
I think we all kind of know the things we should be doing, and the hard part is definitely applying that in consistency.
Yeah. Like for example, one that I really want to implement is not going on my phone for an hour when I first wake up, because all of our morning routines, for the most part, are to wake up and check our phone and check our social media and check our email and check our text. And that is just not a healthy way for the human brain to wake up, because you want to wake up, you want to be present. I like to go and have my mud water and meditate before I check my phone, because media, as where it is a great tool, it can also be harmful to us. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I've been trying to implement, and it is kind of hard to put into practice because we're all addicted.
Yeah. We each picked a word to set the tone for 2021. Addi, what is your word?
My word is abundance, and that is a very popular word right now. But I just want to have abundance in my life in all aspects, in wealth, in joy, in kindness, in love. And yeah, I just want to be very abundant and
full.
And full, yeah. Just filled to the brim with happiness.
I love that for you.
Thanks. What about you?
My word is clarity. I feel like there has been a lot of things over the past several years that have just kind of clouded my vision and my path to my goals and where I want to be and who I want to be. And slowly the clouds have been kind of clearing, and I've just felt this sense of clarity, and I just really want that to continue throughout my whole year.
Yeah, clarity is super important, and I really like that word. So now that we have these goals, what are some tips and strategies we are going to use to implement them? Because we all know New Year starts, we have our resolutions, we're excited, we're following them, we're motivated. And then right around February, right around now is when things start to kind of die down and we get discouraged, and sometimes we can fall off track. So we have come up with a list of some things that we think are helpful to keep the ball rolling and to really apply these things to your life. So what are one of your tips, Camryn?
First of all, I'd say just give yourself some grace. Like, we all know we fall off of our goals. That's just kind of a known thing. And I think we need to focus less on preventing that and more about how we're going to pick ourselves up after that happens. Because it's very easy to be like, oh, this is hard. And I haven't been consistent with it up until this point. And it just kind of feels pointless when you're trying to be consistent. But to just be like, you know, it's okay. I'm only human.
Yeah,
and
we all make mistakes, and we are our hardest critics.
At the end of the day, it just goes back to the fact that today is today and tomorrow is tomorrow, and there's always a second chance and a third and a fourth and a fifth, and you have to give yourself those chances. You know, You have to come to terms with that on your own and say, I deserve a third chance.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a go again. I'm going to try harder. And if you fail again, you can just
You
try
deserve
again.
all the chances in the world. One tip that is really helpful for me is to set super small goals and celebrate the heck out of them when you do accomplish them. Because oftentimes we set these large goals, which is good to have your large goals. And then you get discouraged when you're not reaching them. Say you want to lose 5 pounds in a month and then you only lose 2 and you're super discouraged, and that's going to cause you to fall off track because you're not feeling the progress that you want. Therefore, you're not feeling fulfilled by the work that you're putting in. If you set smaller goals, you can feel accomplished daily and weekly, to where you are constantly getting motivated from your own progress. So if you're setting a smaller goal, like, oh, I want to go to the gym twice a week, that's a small goal you can set yourself. And even if you just go and walk the treadmill for 30 minutes, you still went to the gym twice a week, and you deserve to be celebrated for that and to really just celebrate yourself for your goals.
Yeah, I think that ties really well into my second tip, routinely reevaluating your goals and your progress you've made. So to first of all, either write down your goals or just have a space or some kind of routine thing that you do to sit down and say, am I working towards these goals? Have I fallen off? Because sometimes we fall off of our goals and our path, and we don't even realize it for a while. And we're sitting there, and I look back and I'm like, wait, it's been 2 weeks, and I've gotten Starbucks every single day. I told myself I'd stop getting Starbucks every day.
Yeah.
And look, I just
you gotta
totally
check
forgot.
in with yourself.
I literally drove myself to Starbucks without even realizing. So to check in with yourself, and then also look at your progress you've made so far. Because it's easy to be like, oh, this is where I want to be, and I'm not here, and it sucks. But look where you were.
Look where you've come from.
Look where you've come from. Look what you started with. Look where you are now, and be happy with that progress. Even if it's minute, even if it's small.
Yeah, and when you are doing that, when you're sitting down and setting those goals and reevaluating them once a week, you also want to have very clear intentions on why you want to complete these goals. Because if your goal of, I just use the example losing weight because it's the most common New Year's resolution. If your goal is to lose weight and your intention behind that is to be skinnier or to look better or to get validation from people for being skinny, that is not going to get you to where you want to be, because those intentions are not rooted in self-love. If your reason for working out is because you want to be healthy and you want to feel good about yourself and you want to do good things for your mental health, that is going to help you reach your goals so much faster because the intention behind it is pure. So it's really important to set pure positive intentions and really look at your goals and why you want to complete them.
Another thing that can be really discouraging when trying to reach your goals is seeing other people living your dream, doing what you want to do, accomplishing those goals that you've set for yourself. And comparison can be horrible for you. It's like drinking poison.
I always say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, because as long as you're comparing yourself to someone else and where they are,
you're not going to be grateful for your own life.
Or your own progress that you've made getting there. So yeah, you can't look at how far someone has gone because you don't know the circumstances. They might have an advantage that you don't know about. Or you might have a disadvantage where it's not even fair for yourself to be comparing yourself to this other person.
We are all on different paths, and it's not fair. Your path is 100% different than anyone else's path. And it's best to stay in your lane, focus on yourself, be proud of yourself, and not compare to other people's paths.
What other tips do you have?
My last tip is to surround yourself with people on a similar journey as you who are going to hold you accountable. Because a lot of the times we are surrounded by people who don't necessarily have the same aspirations and dreams as us, and that can oftentimes bring us down to their level. If they're, let's say you're wanting to get more sleep and not go out so much, not spend so much money, and you have friends who are constantly going out, constantly inviting you out, they're not going to promote or cheer you on in your goal of staying home because they want you to be on their path. They want you to stoop to where they're at. So you need to look for people who are going to, not only are they trying to accomplish the same goals, or maybe they already have accomplished those goals, and are also going to cheer you on in accomplishing those. Not to say you have to cut off everybody who's not on the same path as you. Like I said, we're all in different paths, but to create those boundaries and to distance yourself from people who you feel are tainting your goals.
Anyone who is worth being in your life will truly want to see you do great. And as long as your goals lead to that, and you kind of make that clear to everyone around you, they should support that. And if they don't, maybe reevaluate your relationship with them.
We just want to let you know that we are so proud of you and we are cheering you on. We are in your corner and we want you to accomplish all of your goals and dreams for 2021. Mm-hmm. We really want to create this community of girls cheering each other on. Like we said, have people in your corner that are holding you accountable and cheering you on. That doesn't necessarily have to mean personal in-person relationships. That can be our online community or the media you consume. So we just want to let you know that we are super proud of you, of how far you've come, and we are super excited for you to accomplish all of your dreams.
Yes, we are all in this together, as High School Musical would say, one of my favorite movies.
One of your favorite movies.
One of my favorite childhood movies. But yeah, no, it's true. We really are all in this together. We're one big family, and we support you, and we hope you support each other, and we hope you support yourself. And over the course of this next year that we're heading into, that we've kind of dipped our toe into already. But, we hope this podcast can kind of be a place where you can come and rejuvenate, first of all, but also just kind of carry on this journey of self-help and wellness. And I feel like there's a lot of that culture going around online right now, which is great, but a lot of it can kind of be this like toxic positivity where it's like, if you're not super positive and happy all the time,
it's your own fault.
Yeah, go out and go for a walk and read a book and you'll feel so much better. Like sometimes it's a lot more complicated than that. I think out of everyone, we know that. We've been through some really hard things where it's like, okay, no, I can't just go for a walk and I'll feel better. That's not how it works. So to be a place where we can recognize those real problems and talk about them and get into that in a safe space where we're all comfortable and just feeding off each other and just wanting the best for each other at the end of the day.
Yeah. We are now going to jump into the sisterly advice column, and I am super excited for this. I love giving advice. You can ask Camryn. I am everyone's unsolicited therapist. Even if you're not asking for my therapy, I will give it to you.
Yeah.
So this is my time to shine, and I feel like we really feed off of each other. We give great advice as a older sister kind of vibe. We announced our podcast today, and we asked you to DM our Instagram account for some advice, and I found Camryn hasn't read it yet. I wanted it to kind of be live reaction, see what she really felt right off the bat. So, and I think it's relevant to Camryn.
Okay, I'm scared now.
Okay, she says, my older siblings can be quite judgmental of the things I do. Is there anything I can say or do to make them understand that it's my life and not theirs? How can I work through the feelings of being behind on life when I'm being compared to my older siblings who are out of college and have good jobs?
That's a tough one.
And that's something that I think most sibling dynamics have.
Yeah. I mean, especially me and Addi being so close in age, I think that's kind of been a very big theme through my childhood. I am a more introverted person. I'm more quiet and calm, and I have a harder time making friends, as we've talked about. And Addi's very outgoing and loud and out there, and it just comes very easily to her, and people are just kind of naturally gravitated towards her a lot of the times. So that left me to compare myself to her for a lot of my life. And honestly, even up and through high school, until pretty recently, I always kind of had this, I feel like I've carried this kind of resentment with me up until pretty recently, where it was like, I just kind of wish I could be here and I wish I could have the attention that she got growing up. And she walks in the room and everyone's listening, So I've definitely struggled with that, and I feel very similar, even though it might not be about the same exact things that's being compared. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about just not comparing yourself. Because at the end of the day, It really is just about your viewpoint, the way you're perceiving the situation. Because if you're perceiving it like, oh, they're over here and I'm over here, not taking into consideration all these other factors that, oh, they're older than me and they're in college and they should be expected to have their life more worked out than I do. I'm only this old and I'm on a different path and I'm doing this. And so to kind of voice to them, like, look.
I think that they need to allow her to be on her own path. And I think as an older sibling, I think for me personally and probably for them, it comes from a place of wanting to help. We're like, okay, we've already been through these things. We want to give you advice and help you out so you don't have to go through the same hardships. But I think a big part of it is letting go and just letting them live their own path. Like I said, we all have different paths. Everybody has a different path. Even though you were raised in the same household and you have a lot of the same, memories and core values, you're still completely different people. So I think just sitting down with them and talking to them and telling them like, look, you have to, the way you communicate, you have to tell them, hey, I appreciate the advice. I appreciate you wanting to help me. And I love you for that. But I need you to also respect that I'm my own person and that I am going at my own rate.
Yeah.
And that's your path is for you to decide and you only.
And like we said, Addi's kind of the queen of unsolicited advice. And there's been several times where I've just had to tell her, like, Addi, listen, this is just one of those lessons that I have to learn for myself. And you can tell me all you want, like, oh, trust me, Camryn, I've been down that path. I've learned that lesson before. I can tell you, don't do it or do it or whatever it applies to. And sometimes you just really have to live and get that life experience to be able to learn that lesson for yourself.
Yeah.
That's sometimes the only way you can do it to truly grow.
Yeah. I hope that answered your question and you got a little bit of advice that you can apply. And I really hope that your siblings hear you out. With that being said, that is the end of the episode today. It was so fun to film the first episode. I cannot wait to hear your feedback. And once again, we are so thankful for all of the support.
Yes. Follow us on our socials, sbc.pod on Instagram. That is the best place to communicate with us. So if you want to hear some advice, definitely go over there and send us a DM of what your situation is and how we can help you. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so you can be one of the first people to hear the podcast, because about an hour and a half after every episode, we will be going live on our Instagram and kind of talking about the episode, going a little bit deeper. We want you to really feel like you're a part of this podcast and you're a part of our sisterhood and our friendship. So we're going to go live, be able to talk to you guys a little bit more one-on-one and get your feedback about the episode. Next week on the Sisters by Chance podcast, we will be getting into a topic that I'm really excited for, and that is periods. Dun, dun, dun. Next week, we will be talking an entire episode about periods. And I think that this is something that is super important to talk about. We have a lot of younger viewers, and a lot of the times people don't feel comfortable talking to their older adults in their life about this topic. So we are going to go over what we would like to tell our younger self. First of all, if we could give advice on someone who is scared to get their period, about to get it, and honestly just having a moment to speak about it freely in this womanly space, and to make sure that you all know how much of a badass you are for doing that every single month. We will also be sharing some horror stories of some cringy, embarrassing period moments that we've had in our personal lives, and sharing some of yours. Definitely very anonymous. We won't expose you. But if you would like to share your period horror story to be featured in our next episode, definitely send us a message on Instagram. And I cannot wait to read all of them. Even I'm so excited to hear all of your funny stories. Sometimes y'all comment stuff and I will literally laugh so hard. So I'm really excited to read your stories. So tune in next week to hear all about periods. Thanks again for joining us for our very first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next Friday.
That's a wrap.